In this video, I will be building every single Harry Potter movie in LEGO, but there's a twist. Each build must be completed in less time than it would take to watch that movie. For the first movie, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, I'm going to be building the Sorting Hat Ceremony. For those not familiar, the Sorting Hat Ceremony is where new students are assigned to their new houses. Since the Philosopher's Stone is only 2 hours and 31 minutes, that's the time I have to build this scene, and the time starts now. To start off this mock, I laid down a foundation of bricks. And I also marked out the area where I want the Sorting Hat Ceremony to happen. Next, I grabbed a bunch of my light bluish gray parts to start on the floor. For the floor, I did a mixture of tiles and plates to help replicate the stone texture we see in the movies. I also added in some cracks and other imperfections into the floor. I mean, come on, can we have someone take care of that? Swiftly moving on, I finished up the wooden stage where the professors can sit and also where the sorting ceremony will happen. With around 2 hours remaining, I started on the walls of the Great Hall. I'm mixing in a bunch of tiles and plates to help give the wall a stone texture. With one of the walls built to the height I want, I think it's time we add in a window.
Believe that a change of decoration is in order.
With a little help from Professor Dumbledore, the window is now complete. Next, I want to work on some of the stone statues we see throughout the Great Hall. So I started with the base, attached the talons to the midsection, added a little bit of detail, added on the right wing and the left wing, popped on the head, attached the statue to the base, and attached the bowl full of fire. And that's my complete statue. With just under 1 hour remaining, it's time to wrap up the last section of the wall. I also made a place to add in the statue from earlier. Just like that, the entire wall is now complete. Time to add in the last window. With pretty much everything now being complete, it's time to add in some of our last details. So I added in these super big tables we see in the movies, along with 2 benches. Finally, I added in some minifigures.
Better be Gryffindor!
Next, we're building the Chamber of Secrets, my personal favorite Harry Potter, and the scene I'm going to be building is a Quidditch match between Slytherin and Gryffindor. To do this, I'll have 2 hours and 41 minutes. Let's jump right in. To start off with, I laid filler brick and did a black border around the whole mock. Next, I started working on the Quidditch pitch. To help portray the well-kept grass we see in the movies, I added in alternating stripes of green and bright green tiles and plates. I also added in some of the white markings we see on the field. To fill up the sand pit in the middle of the field, I threw in a bunch of tan 1x1 plates. Next, I'm going to be building the Quidditch stands, and I'm going to start with the Gryffindor one. I started off with a base of red and yellow bricks, the 2 main colors of Gryffindor. Then, I replicated this exact design again and stacked them on top of each other. On the third layer, I made a seating area where the spectators can watch the game from. Then I added on the rooftop. Before I can wrap up the Quidditch stands, I need to apply some stickers. With everything stickered, I can add the Gryffindor banners on each side, and the emblem in the middle, and then some flags on top. With the Gryffindor stands now complete, I can move on to the Slytherin ones. Overall, I did a very similar process to the Gryffindor tower, instead just adding some smaller details along the way. And on the roof, I added some spikes because I thought they were cooler than flags. And I also added in the stickered banners and emblem. With stands for both houses complete, I think it's time to make some bleachers for the other students. I was able to use some more stickered elements and these are perfect, representing a match between Gryffindor and Slytherin. And the last thing I built were the Quidditch rings, so we can actually get a game going. With everything complete, let's place everything in the final mock. First, let's place the bleachers. Next, let's place our Gryffindor stands, and also the Slytherin one. Add in everybody's favorite minifigures, and also these guys. And lastly, let's place the rings. For the third movie, The Prisoner of Azkaban, I'm going to be building the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. In this scene, Professor Remus instructs students how to defend themselves against a boggart. Let's get started. I'll have 2 hours and 19 minutes to complete this build. With the filler and the black border in place, let's move on to the hardwood floors. I'm also mixing in some darker brown for some variation. I also started on these big arch support beams we see in the classroom. Next, I think it's time we place the windows, so I went ahead and popped those into place. Now I'm going to be extending the stone support beams above the classroom, so I added multiple of these bracket sections onto each other. Then to make them smooth, I added tiles, in total ending up with 4 support beams. Now I can go ahead and attach all of them. Now it's time to add all the smaller details and furniture into the build. So I started by hanging these magnifying glasses from the ceiling, and placed a table against the back wall with a mysterious plant and some potion bottles. On the table in the middle, I placed a skull along with some other potion bottles full of mysterious substances. And for the last table, I placed on a unicorn horn for students to inspect. Now I think it's time to add in a seating area for the students. so I added in 2 tables with books and some benches for the students to sit on. The last thing I built was the wardrobe where the bogger is stored in. Let's add that to the build as well.
Is it a guess as to what is inside?
That's bogging.
What frightens you most of all?
Professor Snape. Ridiculous!
For the next movie, and the Goblet of Fire, I will be building the Yule Ball. This is a dance hosted at Hogwarts during the time of the Triwizard Cup. Let's get the party started. For this build, I'll have 2 hours and 37 minutes. With the black border and filler bricks laid down, I can start putting in the stone floors, in which I use a mixture of tiles and plates to add some more detail. With the rest of the floor done, I can now install the dance floor. This will be put to good use later. With plenty of time remaining, I wanted to get the hardest part knocked out early, the giant winter trees we see in the movies. Trees are very hard, but taking my time allowed me to get a pretty good one knocked out. With just over an hour left, I wanted to get started on the entrance of the dance. I wanted to add a more festive design to the normally grey walls, so I added in some blue and light blue designs. Next, I wanted to decorate the entrance, so I wove in some white plant pieces to help increase the winter festivities. Now it's time to place everything into the final build. So first I added the giant tree, then I added in the first table, then I gave out some ice cream, and I also served some drinks. I'm not really sure what's in there. I also placed the second table. I added in this marvelous ice sculpture. Lastly, I placed this massive water fountain. Now it's time to dance. For the 5th movie, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, I will be building the iconic duel between Voldemort and Dumbledore at the Ministry of Magic. Let's go! For this build, I'll have 2 hours and 18 minutes. Like always, I started with a black border and some filler bricks. Then I started installing the floor using a mix of black tiles. With that wrapped up, I can start building up the walls and the fireplace, while also adding in some gold details. The Ministry of Magic has a very interesting architectural design. To get this archway, I'm going to be using a mix of hinge plates and snot building techniques. The hinge plates allow this design to curve smoothly. With the archway now in place, I can start building up the walls above it. The goal here is to minimize as many gaps as possible that are showing through the archway and the wall. Around the back, I was also able to start putting in the ceiling. To help make the archway look nice and round without having any gaps showing, I made a bunch of these plate covers that I can pop right onto the archway. With the archway done, it's time to add on the roof and finish some last minute details.
It was foolish of you to come here tonight, Tom.
And you shall be dead.
For the next movie, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, I will be building the scene where Dumbledore is seemingly betrayed. I'm dying to get started. To build this scene, I'll have 2 hours and 33 minutes. In the movie, the astronomy tower is tall and rounded. To replicate this in my build, I'm going to be using hinge bricks to angle sections of walls. With the foundations in place, I can now start working on the giant window frames, and I'm going to be rounding them off with nice arches at the top. I also installed some safety railings, you never know, and I added some filler brick around the back. With that done, I can now start on the floors, which slides right into place. With the easy portion of the build now complete, I can spend the remainder of my time on the roof. I came up with this angled wedge plate design, with one piece of the roof pointing left and the other pointing to the right, and this giant wedge to fill in the middle. So I went ahead and attached all 3 pieces to the build. Satisfied with the result, I decided to tile off every panel on the roof. No astronomy tower is complete without a telescope, so I added one in. I also added in this giant globe.
Severus, please. Avada Kedavra.
For the finale, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, I will be combining part 1 and part 2 into a massive build. The scene I will be building will be the final battle between Harry Potter and Lord Voldemort. This means I have 4 hours and 36 minutes to get this build done. For the final time, let's get started. This will be the biggest build in the video, so I started out with a black border and some filler brick. Then I laid down the main pathway leading into the school. The main focal point of this build is going to be the wreckage of the Great Hall. With the foundation of the build in place, I can now start on the massive pillars. Reaching my desired height, I can add on the final bit on top. With one pillar finished, I can now start on the second one. Next, I worked on the main entrance of the Grand Hall. I attached a doorway with a cool stud reversal technique. With the doorway and the second pillar in place, I can start building up the main section of the wall. Near the top of the wall, I'll be adding a bunch of damage like we see in the movie. With the facade of the Grand Hall complete, I decided to get the front courtyard done as well. Now it's time to start working on the interior of the Grand Hall. I will also be adding the staircases where Ron and Hermione try to take down the snake. So I added the first plateau of the staircase, then I popped in the last piece of the staircase. Lastly, it's time to add in some final details, like big piles of rubble inside and outside the school.
Come on, Tom. Let's finish this the way we started.
Let me know in the comments which build you like the most. Thanks for watching.